Welcome to the Art of Dress. Today I'm very happy to share with you coloring focal point. So thank you so much for coming and thank you for subscribing. It is really fun to start off talking about focal point with Joan Smalls because coloring focal point is something that she truly gets. She does her coloring focal point almost all the time. It's very interesting to see this really strongly developed sense of color that she has. So when you see a picture like this of Joan Smalls, you might think, oh, so why does she think to wear an arm cuff? And what's going on with this? So this is one of the things I want to explain to you. Why is she wearing one? And does she always emphasize her arm? Because sometimes I see her emphasizing with boots. So how is it connected? So these are all the questions that coloring focal point will answer for you. So to start with coloring focal point, we need to go back to our color wheel. Of course, color. Here we have the element color wheel. So if you look, the inside colors are the prime colors, and coloring focal point connects to you via your prime color. But something else is going on here as well, and that is connected to the fact that every planet has a color above sort of the horizontal and a color below the horizontal. So let's take Celadon green as our first example. It's on the left, it's the first color below the horizontal. Celadon green is moon. So the coloring focal point of Celadon green is going to be connected to the coloring focal point of the other moon color, which is plum earth. So Celadon green air is connected to the coloring focal point of plum. So I thought about how could I show this to you, and I decided to use that famous picture of humanity called Vitruvian. I guess the name is Vitruvian man, but I'm going to call it Vitruvian person because it applies to women as well. So here we have the Vitruvian person, and showing that the human form has a connection to the square when the body is standing straight up, legs together, and arms out. You can see it circumcised inside or inscribed inside the square. And when the human form is stretched out, legs open, arms up and open, then the human form connects to the circle. So we're going to use the circle and the square in understanding coloring focal point. So let's start with circle. So here you see that what I've shown here is 3 sets of circles. And on the innermost circle, you can see Celadon green is at the thigh. And right above Celadon green, on the same circle, the upper arm. So you have upper leg and upper arm as the focal points for both of the moon colors, Celadon green and plum. Now let's go to the next circle. And this circle is Jupiter. So starting at the bottom, you have ruby red connected with the lower leg this time. So we had upper leg and now lower leg. And then the opposite color, the other Jupiter color is sky blue water, and that is connected to the lower arm. So lower leg, lower arm. And the third set the third circle, the third set of colors is connected to the toes at the bottom, that's yellow fire. And now we're talking Mercury. And at the top, fingers, that's grape earth. And so that is the other Mercury color. So let's start with these 6, and then we'll go to the square. So to start, let's begin at the inner circle. We'll begin with the upper leg. celadon green. And here we have Josephine Scriver. And as you know, Josephine's prime color is celadon green. And her coloring focal point is upper leg. So this is an outfit that she styled herself, and it's a theme for her. In many of her really exciting and unusual dressy outfits, she will wear high boots. And you can find many pictures of her online wearing high boots. It's so cute on her. And one of the things that's just kind of serendipitous, I guess, is that because she is an alpha style, she will wear her focal point, if she can, on both legs. So let's say that she decided to wear some kind of a band around her legs. She's wearing a mini skirt and she decides to wear like a garter, okay? She would be likely to wear it, would be best on her to wear it on both legs because she is an alpha style. But with boots, of course, we wear two. But anyway, so that's our first example, coloring focal point, upper leg. Now let's go to coloring focal point for the other moon color, and this is upper arm. And here we have Leah Kebede, and she is plum coloring. That's the other moon color. And this is a dress that's one of her own collection. Her collection is called Lem Lem. She does an Ethiopian featured. She features artists and textiles from Ethiopia. And so this is her own dress, and it has this focal point on both arms, upper arms, and she is an alpha style. So that works perfectly for her. Now, let me show you an example. Usually it's the things above the waist that are easier to do on one instead of the other. Here is Leah again. This time she's wearing an outfit styled for some kind of a fashion shoot. And you can see that she's wearing a single bracelet that goes all the way up to her upper arm. This is not something she styled herself. I am willing to guess that if she styled it for herself, she would wear something on both arms. But this is what you would do if you were an omega style, not so fitted, an omega style versus an alpha style, both. Now let's move to the next one. Okay, so the next color is Jupiter, and that is ruby red. So ruby red is the coloring of Joan Smalls. And here you see Joan wearing one of her signature accessories, which is something emphasizing her lower leg. It's often a short boot that comes to the middle of her leg. In this case, it's the gladiator straps. And this is by far her most normal, her most common way of styling herself. And as you can see, it's not an accident. This is her coloring focal point. So now let's move to the opposite for this one, which is sky blue water. And here I'm showing you Chanel Iman, sky blue water, the other Jupiter coloring. This was done for a photo shoot, but somebody really got it right because you can see the boots emphasize her lower leg and her arm on one side because she is an omega style. So she's wearing a double wide bracelet. So it's not an arm cuff per se, but it's bringing the emphasis up to the middle of her arm. Now, if she weren't able to wear, you will frequently see this also in her evening outfits. If she's not able to wear something like a boot or something that brings attention to the middle of her leg, she doesn't have to do this. She is sky blue, so she's above the middle, but she almost always will wear a bracelet or a series of bracelets to bring it up on one arm. But she can wear both, and everyone can wear both. It's just that it's far more common for the styles that have their coloring, or the people that have their coloring focal point below the middle, to wear the above focal point when they need to. So now let me just show you one more example of sky blue water, just because here we have Candace Swanepoel wearing both arms because she is an alpha style. So she is also sky blue water coloring. Okay, and now our third example of coloring focal point. This is yellow fire below the middle, and so yellow fire emphasizes the toes, and this can be done as Cardi B, the incomparable Cardi B, is doing with not just toe rings, but also a really knockout pedicure. And then, so again, she is an alpha style, so she would be normal to wear on both feet anyway. I can't really tell if she's wearing toe rings on both feet, but then I wanted to show you her manicure because she does both. And here is Cardi's, really one of her amazing manicures. And just notice something, notice how she does the multicolor. She uses color in the fire way in her famous manicure of her fingers, which is the complementary focal point for her because she is yellow fire, which is toes and toe rings and pedicure. Or anything else you can think of, maybe toe socks, whatever you want. Okay, and so now the opposite to yellow fire is the mercury color is grape earth, and here you see Bella Hadid, and she's wearing rings on one finger, but we can't see on 5 fingers, but on one hand, and we can't see the other hand. So let us assume that she is wearing them on both hands because she is an alpha style. So that's our first 6 colors, and we did them in pairs. And now let's move on to the second set of 6 colors, the ones that connect up with the square. So here we have the Vitruvian person again, showing you the square that the human form is. And so on the inside, what we have are rectangles. So starting from the very inside, the first set of rectangles, I'll start with the bottom and move up. So the first one is ochre green. As you know, it's below the middle. For the coloring, it's an air color. Ochre green is the waist. The coloring focal point for ochre air is the waist. And the opposite color for ochre air is violet water above the middle, and violet water's coloring focal point is head. The second group of colors is Saturn, and the first one is going to emphasize the feet, and that's red fire, so this will be Rihanna. And then the opposite coloring for the other, you could call it the other Saturn color, is burgundy, and that emphasis is at the shoulders. And then the third one, the third pairing of colors is starting at the bottom is the ankles, and that is olive green air. And then the opposite to that, or the partner, the other Mars color, is aqua water, and that is bracelets or wrists. So let's start on the inside, and let's start with the waist. So here we have our ochre green air, which is our first Venus color, and this is Melody Monroe's, and she looks amazing in this jumpsuit with a belt. So Melody's style is elaborate romantic. Elaborate romantics like to wear a long uninterrupted line. So it is very unusual for a belt of this type. It's kind of a strong belt. And why does it look so good on her? Because her waist is her coloring focal point. Just one other thing about elaborate romantics. You see, elaborate romantics have the highest focal point of all. It's right up at the throat. So for an elaborate romantic, really what they do is they borrow the waist of refined natural. They don't usually use the true waist. They use the end of the bottom of the rib cage as the waist if there's going to be a belt. And usually that's because of the fact that the elaborate romantic is shifting the silhouette, because it's an ornament style, from alpha on top to omega on the bottom, or vice versa. So the belt is usually very subtle, and it just sort of acknowledges the shift in silhouette, because you try to keep the line still uninterrupted. But in this case, it's a complete opposite to that. She's actually drawing attention to her waist, and it looks amazing because this is her coloring focal point. Now we move on to the opposite focal point to this, which is violet water. And violet water is the head. So here we have Iman. Iman is the model I'm referring to, is not Iman Haman, who is, by the way, not this coloring. She is aqua water. Neither is it Chanel Iman, who is watercoloring, but we already saw she is sky blue watercoloring. This is the original Iman, I could call her, from Somalia, who is a violet watercoloring. Now, I wanted to pick a violet watercoloring that was not sculptural and not architectural, because sculpturals and architecturals, as you already know, emphasize the head in their styling. So Iman is harmonic. And as you know, harmonics do not emphasize the head. Even when they wear head accessories, it's very important that the focal point of the styling be at the torso. But because she has her coloring focal point is her head, she can do either one. She can either use her outfit where her coloring focal point with necklaces is at her torso, or she can emphasize her head as she's doing here to amazing effect. Note, I just want to point out that her headpiece is still harmonic. Because she emphasizes her head, she doesn't change from being a harmonic. It still has all the kind of, with harmonics, it's like detail that sort of keeps going and going. It's like in a way harmonics, right? Harmonics is where sound is just reverberating. So that's sort of a signature of harmonic styling. And you can see that that's what's happening here with her headpiece, but look how really, really cute it is. And even her earrings are harmonic styling, but also in a way stronger than her necklace, but it looks great because she's emphasizing her head. So this is violet watercoloring, and the person that wears the other violet watercoloring can of course also do this. So that would be Melody Monrose as the ochre green. If it doesn't work for her for some reason to emphasize her head, her waist for her coloring focal point, she can do her head. So now let's move to the next one, and this is the rectangle that contained red fire and the corresponding Saturn color, which is burgundy. And we're starting with Rihanna, red fire. So once again, I would like to explain to you why Rihanna's emphasis at her feet is not only a brilliant example of coloring focal point, but also so unusual for an elaborate romantic. So our elaborate romantic that when we did our style was an architectural, and architecturals has the impulse to kind of bring the emphasis down anyway in styling. While an architectural elaborate romantic could not do this, they could wear a shoe that had like a pointy toe, and maybe it had a bit more emphasis than normally you will find with other elaborate romantics, because most elaborate romantics have the highest focal point, you see, of all the styles up at the throat. So they are not even comfortable in shoes. I know elaborate romantics that won't even wear shoes. They wear sandals or boots, one or the other. A sandal because it is such a lightweight version of a shoe, and a boot because it kind of skips the shoe altogether and you're just kind of emphasizing the whole leg. So shoes are really problematic for elaborate romantics. And here you have Rihanna wearing this shoe that is so strong, not just a colored sole, but even a thick sole. And then it also has this extra emphasis at the bottom with the jagged design there, the like tread. And it looks amazing. And this is because her coloring focal point is her feet. And so she can do this. Wonderful example of someone who can really bring attention to her feet. So the opposite, or the partner for Saturn color, is burgundy, and the burgundy emphasis is the shoulders. Now, when Rihanna is wearing evening gowns, you will look and see that sometimes she'll wear epaulets or she'll wear something else that brings the emphasis to her shoulders. It's not because she's omega on top, she is not, but it's because she can emphasize her shoulders so amazingly, because that is the opposite to the feet for coloring focal point. So here we have our burgundy Saturn coloring, and this is Kendall Jenner, and as you know, she is the Saturn color. And this is just one of the many things that she does to emphasize her shoulders, because that is her coloring focal point. And this does not tie in any way with her style, because she really de-emphasizes at her shoulders as a true classic alpha. But because her coloring focal point is burgundy, she can do this. And she also does epaulets and lots of other things, because again, she has a really wonderful sense of color. So the last example is going to be ankles and wrists, and this belongs to Mars. So the first Mars coloring is olive green, and the olive green coloring focal point is the ankles. And these are Gigi Hadid's ankles, and because she is an omega style, she is wearing her anklet on one foot. Omega 1 and alpha double. And Gigi Hadid, by the way, often will wear one bracelet as well. So the second example of Mars is aqua water, and here we have Arlenis Sosa. She is an alpha style, and she is wearing her bracelets on both hands. Alpha style, both hands, omega style, one. So that shows you the 12 coloring focal points. And I'll just remind you, the coloring focal points are always in pairs. And the people that wear a coloring focal point from a color that is below the middle of the color wheel frequently will wear either both, the one from below and the one from above, or if they have a reason, they will skip the one from below and move to the one from above. So that, and it can also happen in reverse, but it's just not as common. But as you saw with Chanel Iman, it can still happen where someone who is above the center, in her case it was lower arm, and she was wearing a boot on her lower leg, and it looked amazing. So there you have the idea for coloring focal point, how it works. And when you know your colors, then this will all be available to you. And in the meantime, maybe you already know what your coloring is, because it is reinforced for you by your feeling for your coloring focal point. So thank you again for coming, and thank you for subscribing. And the next color aspect that we're going to look at is size of jewelry, because that is also connected with coloring. So again, thank you for coming and subscribing, and until I see you again, please stay safe.